Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Rick Faulk. I'm the CEO of Locus Robotics, and I have one safety tip, and that safety tip really is to automate. By automating, there are less people actually doing the pick function. The less people means more safety in these days of COVID. Secondly, by automating, you're not pushing these big, heavy metal carts around a building. And we have some accounts that actually call these widowmakers. And obviously, by automating with robotics, you eliminate those widowmakers because you have robots that are on uncontrolled paths. And they're also safety tested. So easier work, less turnover, and more safety.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I will be joined by the CEO of Locus Robotics, Rick Faulk. He's going to talk to us about Locus, and he's going to talk to us about the big news, the elephant in the room, maybe the unicorn in the room, maybe you might say. There's a recent announcement that they are now valued at $1 billion. And actually, recently, I talked to Karen Levitt from Locus probably a week before the announcement, and she told me there was some big news coming. I think I had mentioned somewhere in the conversation too as well. You know, I'm sure you guys will be hitting the billion pick milestone soon. Little did I know that the big announcement would be $1 billion instead. So very interesting stuff. And first time I'm getting the chance to connect with Rick, so happy to be bringing him on the show. So let's welcome Rick. Rick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you on. You know, Locus has been supportive of the show since the beginning. Actually, the first episode I ever did was with Bruce Welty as the guest. So it was kind of a lot of tie-in there. So it's good to finally be talking to you. So I'm curious, you know, tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up kind of leading the charge over at Locus.
Sure. I actually started out in the distribution business about 35 years ago with a company called First Software.
Okay.
Hard to believe it's that long ago, but it has been. We were a software distribution business selling software products like Microsoft Multiplan back in the day and Lotus 1-2-3 into computer dealers. And a lot of those don't exist today. But that's why I originally started in the distribution business and became very fond of technology and how to make humans more productive, how to make operations better. Joined Lotus development after that, LOTUS development, 1-2-3 notes and that sort of thing, where we help folks become more productive using laptops, PCs back in the day. Went on to WebEx, predecessor to Zoom, another great example of making humans more productive, and then joined a company called Intronus in the cloud called backup and recovery space. Along the way, met a lot of venture capitalists and was recruited by one to join Lotus. And I'm very happy I did. And that was about 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And so you spent some time at Quiet Logistics too, which is really where the idea of the Locus bot was kind of created. So how did that transition happen? Like what really, I guess, grabbed your attention to make you want to, I guess, follow the Locus path instead of maybe the Quiet path?
Well, a couple things. Yes, I was CEO of Quiet Logistics as well. I didn't found the company. It was founded by two gentlemen, Bruce Welty, who you mentioned, and Mike Johnson. And I joined really after the founding and after they incubated Lotus. But what came out of Quiet was a big problem. And that is Amazon bought Kiva back around 2012, took the product off the market, and Quiet was a big customer of Kiva, one of the biggest. And when they took the product off the market, Bruce and Mike at the time had a choice. They could go back to a manual operation, which they didn't want to do. They could buy a robot from someone, or they could build one. And they decided at the time the best path was to build one, and went in stealth mode for really about 3.5 years, and actually build a robot, the initial prototype that eventually became Lotus. And what I saw, and the reason why I joined, was a major problem, a big problem. It's a problem that Quiet had at the time with, which was labor, and a problem that everyone really around the globe had, not being able to find enough labor to actually ship what's been sold on a daily basis. And also saw a market that was virtually untapped. There were, at the time, this was 4 or 5 years ago, several companies floating around the edges of robotics, but there was no market leader, and no one really had a solution. And what I saw in the company at the time, and it was very early days, but what I saw was something that could be a very large business because it was solving a really big problem.
Interesting. Yeah. And obviously you guys are continuing to grow, obviously, with the recent funding and valuation as well. And I think the most recent milestone I saw you guys celebrated was the Pi number, like 314 million picks or something like that, right? So
I think it was 3.1214, something like that. But yeah, big number. We're doing right now. Our network is doing 30 or 40 units a second right now across our network number of picks. So it's data that we track actually on a daily basis. We're up to almost 350 million now. So significant growth, and thanks to all our clients are generating all that volume.
Definitely, yeah, and I'm sure a billion picks will be soon, probably within the next year, I would imagine, at that rate. So definitely a lot of growth, and it's interesting to hear how Locus kind of got created out of necessity almost. And I'm curious, as you've been the CEO for about 5 years now, have you seen Locus evolve over the years the way that you thought it would? Has it kind of met what your vision was of when you initially kind of joined?
I think it really has. We started out with a vision, which was to make humans more productive. And that's what we're all about. We're not about replacing humans, although it does take less humans to actually do the function that we do, which is the each pick function. Right. But those humans, for the most part, are assigned to another function in that building. But our vision all along is to make humans more efficient and surround them with robots to be able to do that. And we do that we'll have close to 100 sites under contract right now in the US and Europe, and we do that every single day. So our vision is really all about that. It's not replacing humans, but making them more effective. And where we're going in the future really is this transformation into the digital warehouse. And we're really leading that transformation. So that's where our vision is going to take us. We had a view of this back, it's been almost 5 years ago now, being able to have warehouses visualize data, visualize the performance of those buildings much more effectively, to be able to bring predictive analytics to those operations, actually being able to tell managers where to assign labor in that building to be most effective. Part of our vision was to operate collaboratively with other systems, and we do that today.
Right.
We operate collaboratively with warehouse management systems. We operate collaboratively with a company like Pack Size, for example, where we actually deliver an order to a box making machine, and we collaborate with that box making machine to develop the most efficient box. So it's all been part of this vision to get to this digital transformation. And over the last several years, we've really been driving that, and our customers are seeing a lot of benefit from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the great things is the collaboration that you mentioned. I think that's really going to drive the industry forward. And I remember seeing at Modex, you guys were collaborating with Manhattan, and then you just mentioned Pack Size. Actually, we had Henko on the show before as well, from Pack Size. So, but you mentioned in there too the digital transformation, and I think I heard your recent interview on Robot Report podcast as well, and you said something in there. You said that automation is becoming a mandatory kind of thing. So I'm curious, is that wrapped into this digital transformation that you're talking about? Can you I guess expand on that, and like why do you think it's a mandatory thing now?
Well, we look at, and our customers think about it this way. It's not just us, but our clients look at automation as a mandate. They have to do it, and they have to do it because they've got to solve several big problems. One of those problems is labor. We talked about it. They literally can't find enough labor. I just got back from Memphis, Tennessee last week, or actually yesterday, and in driving around the streets of Memphis in the warehouse district, if I saw one help wanted signs, I must have seen 50 of them. And every one of these facilities right now has got to solve this labor problem. And the nice thing about automation, when you automate, it does several things. Number one, it reduces the reliance on humans, thing one. Secondly, it allows you to scale much more effectively. It allows you to meet the peaks that are out there that happens in every single operation. And allows you to produce data you've never been able to see before to manage those buildings more effectively. And those are the benefits of automation. And that mandate right now is true both for large 3PLs. It's true for very large retail accounts. We've got many large retail accounts across the globe right now, and they've got to do the same thing that 3PLs are doing. They've got to reduce that dependency on labor. They've got to get more data to manage those buildings more effectively. And the other dynamic that's happening is there are many more warehouses being built today, and they're being built in a clustered fashion. For example, in Memphis, I think I saw probably 15, 20 new buildings going up. Right. And all these buildings are being built around other buildings because the land's zoned for industrial, it's cheap, and zoned that way. And the reality is those buildings and those operations are drawing from the exact same labor pool as the buildings that are up there now.
Exactly.
And for the most part, those labor pools are not expanding. In fact, in many cases, they're shrinking. And the laborers that we're working in those buildings are now working in the gig economy. They could be delivering for Instacart, could be driving for Uber. They're all drawing from that same labor pool. So for those reasons, it really is a mandate today. And for 3PLs to be more competitive, they have got to automate to be competitive. Most of our 3PLs that we're doing business with today, when they bid out new business, go after new accounts, they're bidding and they have their economics based on the fact they're using Locus, and they're much more cost effective. So for others to compete, for example, in the 3PL space, they've got to automate. And then you have the whole dynamic of the Amazon effect that's out there. Consumer expectations are that if you order something today, you may want it this afternoon, but you're probably going to get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And at latest the following day. So everyone has got to deal with that Amazon effect. It's reality. Consumers expect right now that you're going to do that, and they just assume when they click on "I want to buy" and insert their credit card, that it's going to arrive on the doorstep the next day. And the reality is, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen at the back end to be able to actually deliver on that. Yeah,
very interesting points there, and I like the fact that you touched on the cluster effect and that's having the impact on the labor, because you mentioned Memphis, and I'm based here in New Jersey, and in my area, it's the same exact thing. And working as a warehouse manager, we've struggled to try and get this labor in place, and especially as a not I guess one of the big guys, like Amazon or Wayfair has some big buildings in our area. Home Depot has a big facility in our area. It's hard to compete and bring in that labor. So you mentioned in there, some of the bigger retail companies and also the 3PLs that are adopting automation like Locus. But I'm curious, how do you think some smaller companies start to be able to adopt some of these automations and start to bring robotics into their facilities?
At least for Locus, we've designed our solution so it can scale. It can start in a very small operation, call it 25,000 feet, and can scale up to hundreds of thousands of feet. Okay. And we designed it so the upfront cost is minimal. We have what's called a robots as a service model. We call it RAS, right, where the upfront fee is nominal. An installation fee in a building will be less than six figures. Typically, it depends on the size of the building. So it's not a major outlay for a small operation. And then they subscribe to the robots. Basically, they hire them. So it's not like you have to write a multi-million-dollar check to actually buy that solution. You're paying it on a monthly basis. And the nice thing about it is you're saving on a monthly basis. So it eats into that upfront cost. And our payback, for the most part, for most sites, is measured in less than 12 months. So you can amortize that capital expense up front, which again is very small, and do that in less than a year. So we've designed this to be very efficient, both for small operations and large operations as well.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think, definitely seeing models like the RAS model, start to come into the market and make these automation and robotic solutions more accessible to I guess the smaller guys, the guys that are not Amazon, I guess, or the DHLs and the bigger companies like that. So, which I think is really a good thing, because it kind of helps them address that cluster effect and labor issues that you were mentioning there. So
the other thing that's happening, and this as a manager of building, it's not just getting the labor, but it's managing the turnover. And turnover is measured in most cases double digits a month. The workers that you hired on Monday may not show up on Wednesday or Friday. So they have to manage that turnover effect, and also manage training. These solutions today, on a manual operation, if you're working with a green screen strapped to your wrist, the training on that may be measured in days or weeks. Where the nice thing about Locus, training is measured, and I'm exaggerating, almost on the high side, is less than 5 minutes. Very, very simple. So it's turnover and training that all these operators are having to manage today. It's not just getting the labor, but once they get it, it's managing the turnover and managing the efficiency and managing the training of all that. So it's sort of a multifaceted problem that automation really addresses and solves.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a huge thing. And that's one thing that I really like about the Locus solution, because I did a site visit up there with you guys in Massachusetts and got to use the Locus bot, and it is like 5 minutes. I mean, is no joke. I mean, it's very simple.
Well, normally we train in 2. It took you 5, but normally we train in 2. So.
Oh, so you set me up there. I see. So yeah, I mean, it's really great, and the training is a huge aspect, like you mentioned, especially as you have this turnover and churn, where people coming in, and especially if you're kind of desperate in a sense to get labor, you're taking people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily qualify initially up front, and then the reliability of that workforce is a little less. So you're definitely running into those situations. So you also kind of were talking in there a little bit about predictive analytics and the data side of things. I also heard you mention in the Robot Report podcast about the warehouse in your pocket. But you didn't go so much in depth in that conversation. So that really kind of caught my attention. And I'm curious, can you go a little more in depth into what that is and what you mean by that?
Well, we do that as part of our digital transformation strategy. We want to enable managers and operators to have literally their warehouse in their pocket. Tell you a true story. I was playing golf with an executive for a very large 3PL. We were on the ninth tee, and he said, "Rick, let me show you how our buildings are doing today." He whipped out his iPhone and went to 3 or 4 different buildings and showed us the rates of those buildings, showed us how many orders had been processed for the day, showed us where the humans were standing at that very point, where the robots were, all on the iPhone. So we have actually about 20 dashboards, and they're all visible on a phone. And again, I mentioned some of the data. You can see not only all the results, how the humans are doing. You can see stacked rank, who was best, who was worst. You can actually see where those robots are at any point in time, all in your pocket. We have big dashboards we mount around buildings. We'll mount, in an average building, we'll probably mount 15, 20 dashboards and display all that data. But we've also brought it down on a mobile device too. So all the data you can see as a big dashboard in the building, you can see on your cell phone. And it's very effective. We actually was actually talking to a manager about a month ago, and he said, "Rick, I hate this." And I said, "Well, why do you hate it?" And I thought he was going to complain about some features or whatever. He said, "I hate it because it's so addictive. And I'm up at night. Watching my building and seeing how it's doing." And I told him he could have worse problems, but it is very effective. And again, we're providing data they've never been able to see before. A lot of WMSs basically are green screens, and this is how they managed operations before. And now you can do it and see all that data. We have most of our buildings, command centers, and you've seen them that run these buildings are. The operators that run those buildings, the managers will have multiple dashboards, and they can see everything how their building's doing and manage the labor more effectively. We have a dashboard. One of the dashboards is predictive analytics. So we will tell them where to assign labor 2 hours from now based on the work stream, because we know what that work stream is. We know what's coming in. We know how we're going to optimize it. And then we tell them where to assign their labor 2 hours from now to be most effective in that building. So we're using a lot of predictive things. And again, they can see all that, where to assign labor, right on their cell phone.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great because, to your point there, many of the WMSs are like green screen and things of that nature. I mean, I remember going into one job and, they gave me a company phone, and then they gave me an iPad too. And I was like, oh, cool, an iPad. Like, can I see the system on the iPad? And they're like, oh, no, but you can check your email on the iPad. I'm like, well, I got the phone. So,
well, the thing is that is the state of the state today. Yeah. There are 100,000 buildings out there around the globe, 100,000 warehouses. We say 95%. I think it's actually greater than that. Operate in that exact way. Right. It's humans pushing a cart, walking 12 to 15 miles a day, snaking up and down aisles, and managers operating those buildings with green screens. That's the state of the industry today, and that's what we're automating. Yeah.
Well, I think the way that you guys are doing it makes so much more sense, because it's like a lot of the newer technologies I'm seeing in the warehousing space. It's kind of mimicking what we use in our everyday life. We're looking at touch screens, like very much like the Locus Bot is a touch screen. I think it's an iPad on there, right? And it's just like something that you're looking at all day at home too, when you're on your phone and things of that nature. So it's very easy to now translate between the two worlds, so to speak, between, the work world and the personal world. And it makes it a lot more intuitive and easier to use as well. So definitely kudos to you for doing that.
I took my 4-year-old granddaughter to our operation about a week ago. Okay. And of course, folks that age, they know how to work iPads and cell phones and this sort of thing. She walked up to the robot and was trained in about 30 seconds.
Wow.
And But to your point, it's tools they use every single day. Our display is actually an iPad, and it's a big visual display. The other thing we do on that iPad is when you walk up to the robot, you're wearing a Bluetooth tag, and we actually display the task in the language of your choice. So if you only speak Spanish or French or Japanese or Portuguese or Chin or whatever, when you walk up to that robot will, or the screen of that robot will now explain the task that's got to be done in your language of choice. So we get really, really smart about do that. And you could never, ever do that on a little mini green screen. Yeah. And we also show you how you're doing for the day. There's an image in the upper right-hand corner will tell you how you're doing against goal, how you rank against others, how many units you pick for the day, what your UPH or LPH rate is. We do that right on the screen. So you've got the real estate to be able to do that. And, it makes the job more fun, more satisfying, and gives feedback to workers that are really looking for feedback.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, working in the warehouse, employees are always looking for that feedback because they want to know if they're doing a good job or not. And it gives it that little bit of a gamification as well. But I love the language changing because I think, you're even further addressing the problem that we discussed before, like with the labor shortages, because now you're kind of opening up to a bigger market before where maybe you might have somebody that, your system is, really only in English, and maybe English is not so strong for them on the reading side. But, that gives you more flexibility and more options. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. We did a survey about a year ago, and on average, there are about 13 different languages spoken in a building.
Wow.
And they're drawing from a multicultural labor pool for most of these buildings, and the average building has about 13 different languages that are spoken. The other point is because you're not pushing a cart that weighs 200 to 500 pounds around a building, because you're not walking 12 to 15 miles a day. The other thing it does, it opens up this operation now to drawing from a broader age pool. If you were 50, 60 years old, you may not want to walk that many miles a day. You may not want to push a cart. So the other thing that Locus does, and other automation solutions as well, it really does expand that age group. And not only do you just have to hire folks that are looking for that type job in an age bracket that may not cater to an older generation like me, but it allows you to do that because you're walking a lot less per day. I think one, and secondly, you're hands-free walking around the building. So it actually opens up the labor market to a much broader swath in the age spectrum.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because, it all kind of ties back to, what you kind of initially said has always been, your vision and kind of your motivation to help, make things easier for people essentially. And it's making it easier for the worker, but then, it's also making it easier for the operation and the company to get more workers too, which is exactly a great thing. Yeah. So it's really, really a great solution. And I've said this before when I, talked to Karen and others from the company, but, it seems like you guys have thought of everything almost, it seems like, and it's
we have a lot more we want to do. We've thought a lot of things. We have about I think at last count about 180 things on our product roadmap we want to go do.
There you go. Well, can't wait to see what that stuff is. So I'm curious, talking about the future, and obviously you mentioned in the beginning the big news. You guys are valued at $1 billion, right? So I'm curious, how does it feel to be valued at that level? How is the team feeling about that? Is it excitement for the future? What's it like over there?
Well, it's funny because the pathway to becoming a unicorn really in any business is littered with companies in the robotic space. They were a robot looking for a problem, and there's been literally billions of dollars of spend VC money for the most part that were robots looking for a problem, and Locus started just the opposite way. We started with a problem and developed a robot around it. And that's made a big difference. And a big part of being a unicorn, honestly, is starting with a really big problem And that's what we did. And we were very successful because of that. At the end of the day, it does start with a big problem. And we did that. And secondly, it really goes to having a solution with a measurable ROI. I've been involved in lots of businesses over the years. I've never been involved in a business that has such a measurable ROI, and you can sell on an ROI basis, and you get measured that way. And that's really, really important to have that measurable aspect. And having tailwinds at your back is also important. Becoming a very successful business. Every business is hard. When you have tailwinds, it does make it easier. And we talked about some of those tailwinds, online ordering and clustering of warehouses and that sort of thing. Yeah. Wage rates are going up. Labor is harder to get. So it's great to have tailwinds in building that business. I would say fourth, it's when you have great technology, it makes it easier when it works. We've all seen lots of tech that has the promise of it's going to work, but it really doesn't at the end of the day, and you don't get that measurable ROI, and you have scalability problems. And we designed Locus from day one to be a really scalable solution, and we're doing that. The other thing we built at Locus that I think has been a big part of becoming a unicorn is a customer-first culture. Every decision we make is... And these are happy words to say, but we really do live this. It's the customers first in making a decision, and how we develop our plans and our strategies, and how we empower everyone in the company to make that customer first decision. And generally, if you do that, it may cost a little money to do that, but at the end of the day, it really is the right decision. And other companies like Zappos, for example, build a company with that as a lens. And I've always learned from them and others that have had that customer first decision and generally make the right decision. And then last, and probably most importantly, it's really having a terrific team. And we are blessed with having folks that work unbelievably hard, that are smart. We've tried to build a culture, sort of a family culture with a customer first lens in everything we do. And any company who wants to build a unicorn has really got to have unbelievably great folks and a culture around that that really empowers them to do their best. And I think it's because of all those reasons, we've been successful and will continue to be. And frankly, the work's only just begun right now. We've brought in a significant amount of capital that gives us the flexibility to do all the things we want to go do. But now really the work has just begun, and we want to build a much larger business, much higher in the valuation scale. And I think we'll get there. Right. And it'll take a few years to get it, but we're excited about it.
Definitely, yeah, and I'm excited too. To see what comes next. And it's interesting that you mentioned the culture, because it's definitely evident. Visiting the office up there previously, and seeing it, and also obviously I think we were talking before we started the recording here, but seeing you guys at the trade shows, like all wearing the same outfit and things of that nature, and you could tell like everybody's working together. It seems like it's like a family almost, and it's a really cool thing. So I'm very happy for you guys, and I want to say congratulations again on that. And I'm sure you're going to do more amazing things with that money. And speaking of more amazing things, is there anything you can share with us that is coming in the future in terms of more innovations or developments or anything like that?
We have another bot under development right now, which is a big initiative for us. I can't talk about the exact specs, but it's our next generation bot that'll give us more flexibility, more use cases. That's in the works. It's still early days, but we're very much working on that. But at the end of the day, we're a software company. We have a hardware component, which is a robot, and working on the next generation of that. But we're really a software business. And as I mentioned before, we've got many things on the roadmap to go off and develop. They're really exciting, more use cases, more efficiency, making humans more productive. That's a lot about that. Part of the money will be used to expand into Europe. We're doing that right now. We have some very large deployments in Europe right now. We're just setting up a corporate headquarters right outside Amsterdam. We've got about, I think it's around 30,000 feet, and we're sort of building the operation that you were in Wilmington. We're building a mini one of those in Amsterdam, and we're hiring right now to staff that operation. We'll be going to APAC probably next year. Japan, we've got some interesting opportunities we're looking at over there. So it's taking what we do, staying focused to what we're doing, but expanding around the globe. There are a lot of robot companies, again, that are robots looking for problems. Yeah. And we've had a host of manufacturers call us as an example where we could get defocused. And we don't want to do that. We want to stay focused at making humans more productive in the logistics business. And that's what we're all about. And that's what will drive our success, is staying focused.
Okay, great. Yeah, good to hear about that. I'm excited to see what this next gen bot is like. And it's interesting you said for some different type of applications as well. So I'm very curious. My mind is turning. So.
You'll probably be one of the first ones to know.
I hope so. I love to be the insider. So, So, Rick, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and it is great to finally connect with you and bring you on here and talk to the people and just get to know more about everything going on with Locus. So, how can people find out more information about Locus Robotics?
Well, they can send an email to the CEO at rick@locusrobotics.com, and I'll make sure any questions get answered. So rick@locusrobotics.com.
All right, great. And
or go to our website.
Okay, great. We'll put those on the newwarehouse.com as well. So, Rick, thank you again for coming on the show.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.